So the Sam Bankman-Fried story went pretty much under the radar and wasn't covered by many media outlets due to the fact that it made government entities, institutional money, and major celebrities like Tom Brady, Stephen Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, Cristiano Ronaldo, and many others, it made them look like fools because they pretty much got finessed by someone that looks like they just came from GameStop and is about to order some Domino's. But in this segment right here, we'll break this down layer by layer, and we'll sort of tie in how the NBA, Stephen Curry, Shaquille O'Neal somehow got involved in this whole mess. But first, we'll start off with the psychology of Sam Bankman-Fried, who spent really heavily on endorsements and is sort of lifting up FTX's profile among celebrities in Major League Baseball and the NBA. And we can also include Formula One racing on top of that. But mainly, he purchased FTX validity through the psychology of sports. So we'll break this down layer by layer by using a few clips from Pablo Torre's show called Find Out. And we'll begin this by taking a look at the reason why Sam Bankman-Fried chose to use sports as almost social proof. What's the psychology behind it? And how an introverted mind like his really works.
Sam you got to remember, he's a Martian. He's trying to figure out people the way an AI would figure out people. Had no kind of social interaction as a kid. Never thought of himself as the sort of person who could run a business with customers. So he's sort of groping, figuring out how do you get attention for this crypto exchange.
This was a kid who, when he was like 19, when, by the way, he's at MIT, he has a Nate Silverish blog where he writes about baseball stats, genuinely does like sports.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. You might have thought he was just like a nerd who doesn't like sports and does it cynically, but he was a fan.
And he starts to just kind of, from first principles, look at what people care about. And he saw that, like, in Europe, when you put the names of companies on the jerseys of players, everybody noticed that the name of the company, and no one cared about the names of that were on the stadiums. But in the United States, all the announcers, every time they talk about a stadium, they mention the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
And again, welcome back to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. And
he just...
Same way in the NBA, how we actually know the Staples Center for the Lakers, and when they changed the name to Crypto.com Arena, everyone was kind of like caught off by that. But at the same time, in the NBA, we definitely know the names of the stadiums. So NBA fans have really grown accustomed to the arena's names and the subconscious marketing of these brands getting their names into people's minds.
Picked it up, it was like what people cared about. He would never try to make an argument about why people were this way, because he had no idea. It was just, I'm looking at these strange creatures called human beings, and this is what they do here in America.
Look, where are the places that have huge amounts of following, that have, lots of people care about, that are sort of universal, and that are excited to partner with us. And I think that, we're open to a lot of areas, but in practice, sports has been a lot of that.
He said, "It had been my impression that the names of stadiums of professional sports teams in America, particularly baseball, football, and basketball teams, were very widely known. I, as a somewhat average level sports fan, could name dozens of stadium names, almost all of which I had never been to."
Once Sam has decided that what they need to do is stick FTX's name on a stadium, they go looking for a stadium to stick its name on. And he got rejected by the New Orleans Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think it was because crypto just generally made some people uncomfortable, rightly. The Kansas City Royals offered him their stadium, and he said he didn't want to be the Kansas City Royals of crypto.
No offense to the Kansas City Royals.
If you look at the psychology of Sam and him knowing sports, he instantly knows not to go after the small market teams. All he has to do is land on one of the big name teams that preferably have superstars or just legacy names, and that will actually validate his brand. He just has to get one. And in his search for that one team, he somehow lands on the Miami Heat. But the process for him to get approved and be on the Heat's arena had a few gray areas. And it kind of had a domino effect once he got approved of the type of sponsorships that would follow.
Finally, this thing with the Heat breaks, and he does want to be the Miami Heat of crypto. And the twist to the Heat deal that was so appealing to him and the small circle of people trying to figure out how you get inside of the minds of ordinary people, was that it required government approval. The Miami-Dade County had to approve the deal. It wasn't just, oh, you go right to the Miami Heat. And the fact that a government was going to sign off on it and rubber stamp them and say the government approves of FTX, they thought that gave them, that was really valuable because it would just create trust. That's what they're doing. They're trying to create trust.
It may have been an easy pitch because the mayor.
If you look at Florida as a whole, especially Miami during the pandemic, they were the hub for crypto. They're trying to attract a lot of institutional money into Florida. And it makes sense why this deal eventually went through. They probably overlooked a few things, but it makes sense why this deal went through.
Was all about crypto back then. He had promoted something called Miami Coin, which fell 99%.
Francis Suarez, the most Miami man that's ever Miami.
He was at this crypto conference where I first met Sam and gave a speech about, how we should all get in on crypto.
It's just wonderful to be here in the Bahamas, which is like the Hamptons of Miami. And only Sam and FTX can do something like this and convene this kind of incredible collection of talented people in the crypto space. And I had to be here.
In no way will any of us regret this. It was basically, I think, the tenor of that speech.
So once he got government approval for FTX to be the name of the Heat's arena, that basically served as validation for his company. The fact that a major billion-dollar NBA franchise would have their name on a stadium, that means that, hey, this is legit. That's normally how it would come across to most people. So now we're going to see how that deal basically created a domino effect as it became easier for him to get other deals, especially with Major League Baseball, to get that FTX endorsement logo on the patch for some of the empires.
But just speaking to the oddness of him, it's the idea of, on the one hand, this guy is an alien who does not understand anything about our customs, but on the other hand, he's savvy.
FTX is making history again, this time becoming the first company to work out a new partnership with the MLB.
Major League Baseball, they put a patch on every umpire.
That was my favorite one.
Now right here, you're going to see how Major League Baseball has a gap in their approval processes for their sponsorship. They almost use the NBA and the Miami Heat's arena as almost like, hey, look, they got a government approval here. That means they must be good, so we don't really have to fact check them. So they sort of instantly approve FTX as being one of their sponsors, assuming that the Miami government did their homework on them when they got the approval for the Miami Heat arena.
A great idea. I don't think they had patches before.
You sort of see the logic in all of these choices, right? Like with Major League Baseball, Sam Bankman-Fried is right that, like, do people really give a shit about the sponsor on anyone's jersey? No, it's forgettable. But beyond naming rights of stadiums, we are just going to be seeing on a baseball broadcast the umpire all of the time.
They're one of the organizations with absolutely massive reach. It's a sort of cool patch on every umpire, which I think is pretty creative. But I think beyond that, we were excited about how excited they were about this. And I think that's really important for us.
Once again, he continues to get more validation. So FTX looks official. You see it on Major League Baseball umpires, which the cameras always pan to them. And then the NBA and the Miami government had approved for it to be the name of the arena.
It was perfect because what is an umpire? Umpire is someone who's there judging everything and making sure it's fair. And you're watching the television and you see the batter and you see the catcher and you see the pitcher and you see this logo on the umpire. It took my breath away. How quickly, how easily, how cheaply they were able to get that real estate. Almost every shot, basically constantly on TV, on this human being, is this thing that says FTX. So what they figured out, I figured this out in my own way, right? That I've written sports books to get at things other than sports, because this whole society is so sports obsessed that you can take them to, if you start with sports, you can get them to places they wouldn't think they would want to go. They're not going to want to read a book about data and analytics.
That is a perfect example. Most NBA fans don't give a fuck about analytics. Once you relate basketball to it and gambling along with it, most NBA fans all of a sudden into that. Same thing with NFL. Once you start showing analytics, you can show that they could place that into their bets or sort of factor it in. Then people get interested. Sports is a nice little cover or nice little piece of bait to get people into things that they normally wouldn't be in.
You might want to read a book about, data and analytics in baseball. And business people are constantly looking for sports metaphors for what they're doing. If you give them a sports metaphor combined with the lesson is more likely to be absorbed. This is a version of what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing.
And shout out to Pablo, very great observation right here where he points out Major League Baseball does not want to fall behind. It shows you their psychology. So this FTX scandal has a lot of different layers, not just Stephen Curry or Shaq getting caught up. It's also local governments and sports institutions like baseball. It kind of exposes their psychology in a way that they use the NBA almost as a validation to do sponsorship deals with FTX without even vetting them.
Line that you had in your book from I believe FTX's lawyer, Dan Friedberg, about the difference in vetting between the NBA and Major League Baseball. Do you recall what he said?
You're picking up on all this stuff that nobody has picked up on. But yes, they were worried, of course. Crypto has got kind of sketchy reputation in most people's minds. Lots of bad things that happen in crypto. Getting people to take your money, they thought was going to be a big problem, and it was a problem, obviously, in football, with the institutions, with the stadiums. The basketball, the deal with the Heat, they had to jump through hoops. They did go give presentations to the Miami-Dade Board of Supervisors or whatever that government body is. Baseball just took the money. Baseball, they couldn't believe how easy it was. And this probably tells you something about the hand that baseball feels it's playing. It's like the lesser venture capitalist. It's worried about being left out, so it will allow others to just do their vetting for them. And if it's okay for basketball, it's got to be okay for us. Just please give us some too.
Which is hilarious. And speaks to the ego inside and the ecosystem of ego inside of sports as well.
And that right there gives you a great insight to the battles between institutions, between the NFL, NBA, NHL, other sports entities, and other institutional entities like local governments. It shows you the psychology is happening in between those different billion-dollar enterprises. Baseball's almost become the little brother, even though you could say 20, 30 years ago, especially before this technology boom, baseball was pretty much number one, them in boxing. It's funny how now that they're sort of playing the little brother role psychology-wise, even though they do make a lot of money. If not, they definitely make more than the NBA. So right here, we're about to see how Sam Bankman-Fried used that same formula for getting approved with the Miami Heat and the NBA, and sort of the domino effect it caused for him to easily get deals by the MLB. He's going to apply that same formula to celebrities. Once he goes after the head honcho, a guy like Tom Brady, who's pretty much on the Mount Rushmore of sports, along with guys like Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson. Once you get one of those guys to sign on with a big brand like that, the other athletes will instantly sign on, and their camps will not do their due diligence in checking FTX. They will just assume if a large brand like Tom Brady hopped on, it's safe for us to hop on, as we're going to see Stephen Curry and Shaq also jump in.
I found it fascinating in your reporting, which establishes Sam Bankman-Fried, yes, a Martian, but also is discerning about who matters and who does not. I mean, he has opinions. You quote, if you could remind us of the stuff that he wrote to employees about the difference between Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott and Tom Brady.
Again, it's the Martian view, sort of like he notices this sort of indiscriminate use of quarterbacks especially, but athletes to pitch stuff. And he says, I've seen Dak Prescott in this mattress commercial 7,000 times, and I don't believe a single person has bought a mattress because Dak Prescott was in the mattress commercial. That I think in his mind that had zero effect. He said, on the other hand, Tom Brady has changed our life. That Brady matters more than everything combined.
The best ever, right? But he's not thinking about being the best. He wants to be better. So he's going to invest better, too.
FTX, that's the crypto app, right? Now it's for all kinds of investing. It's better.
So I've got some numbers. Can we go over the numbers?
Please.
Okay, so because a lot of this has come out now that FTX is bankrupt.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. The story ends badly. So his biggest name celebrity was Tom Brady. And Tom got $55 million. Credit to rival crypto book author Michael Lewis on this. He had the detail, which was that Brady committed to do 20 hours a year of work for FTX for 3 years to get the $55
Doing
million.
the math on that, that's
It's
insane.
yeah, it's $916,000 an hour.
What do you think? Are you in?
You know what? I'm in.
I mean, I do think everybody FTX hired to endorse it was being paid more money per minute than they'd ever been paid. I mean, it wasn't just Brady, but that, if you ask Sam, Brady was cheap at that price. This is gonna sound strange.
He definitely was cheap at that price because he's a social proof. He's a social proof. He's the one that's gonna allow the Stephen Currys to just come in, accept the money. Cristiano Ronaldo, Shaq, and plenty of others. Shit, they even had a Super Bowl commercial with Larry David. Other people are just gonna come in. Larry David doesn't think he's a bigger name than Tom Brady. He's probably made more money, but he probably doesn't think he's a bigger brand than Tom Brady. Tom Brady's on the Mount Rushmore of sports, especially in the United States.
You hear that number and you think, oh, Brady just let himself be bought. I don't actually think that's what happened. I think Brady actually was interested. And FTX was the most interesting crypto place. Brady had a genuine curiosity, fascination with crypto, and a genuine curiosity, fascination with Sam that was the money in a way clouds the reality of the situation. It wasn't just the money. As much money as it was.
What's up, guys? I'm here with my boy Sam from FTX. We're at Crypto Bahamas Conference. We're going to start the day. We're going to do some TikToks for you guys. And it's going to be an amazing day. We'll get started. We'll do a get ready with me. Sam, where you going, bro?
For Sam's point of view, it might have been just the effect Brady had. Although I think it probably tickled him that he was, on the sidelines when Brady was playing football.
There is undeniably, now that you phrase it in these terms, there's this cinematic archetype, this odd couple of two archetypes, as you would see in a movie, opposite ends of the spectrum, getting together to, Brady was putting, the red laser eyes in his avatars on social media.
Most people who met Sam felt oddly admiring and protective of him. He was nothing but this roly-poly, super bright nerd. He wasn't pretending to be a former athlete. He wasn't. A lot of times you see people who are cozying up to athletes, and the athletes smell it, right? They're kind of jock sniffers. Sam, he didn't pretend to know which way the football was supposed to go when you had it. He was just his own person, and so different that he interested people like Brady. It was like a weird friendship struck up on the playground by the kid who was all alone in the corner, who nobody wanted to play with, and the most popular kid in the school. That's what it felt like.
And that's part of the scam. Sam Bankman-Fried's image is definitely part of the scam. Him being this guy that's just wearing wrinkly clothes, happy-go-lucky. He kind of looks like aloof. All of this is part of the scam. He is finessing everybody. And that harmless, oh, I'm like you guys type of image, that is bullshit. And that's what makes this whole scenario funny, because all these powerful people with all these connections, they got scammed by a guy that almost looks like a bum. That's why this is rarely reported. It's embarrassing. It's not only celebrities, it's local governments and major institutions like MLB and the NBA.
Sam could not believe the effect of the role that Brady played in the culture. And the drop off from Brady to Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott is just huge. But he was also saying this, there's a relationship between the product that's being pitched and the person who's doing the pitching. So for example, Steph Curry's operation at first said no, he didn't want to endorse FTX. But then after Brady in the stadium, he came on board.
Steph Curry got $35 million, the same 20 hours a year deal.
Yep.
And it seemingly didn't do as much. Maybe he hadn't put in his hours yet. Although he did appear in one embarrassing FTX ad where he is carving an ice sculpture of a Bored Ape NFT.
This is Steph Curry, the world's leading expert on cryptocurrency.
Definitely not. I'm not an expert, and I don't need to be. With FTX, I have everything I need to buy, sell, and trade crypto safely.
Sam Bankman-Fried, again, to your point, I don't want to be the royals of sports podcast hosts either. He's picking like some of the greats who also are known to be credible and safe.
Yeah.
Yep. Credible and safe. And Stephen Curry, that $35 million is not really changing his life. It really wasn't. It was just an easy bag for him to pick up, but at the same time, his team is looking at it like Tom Brady's not risking his safe brand for a scam. So if Tom Brady could do it, Stephen Curry could do it. And I could only imagine after this was found out to be a scam, Stephen Curry might have fired his whole team. I wouldn't be shocked.
So he also, David Ortiz,
yeah,
did an ad.
Super well liked, of course.
You getting into crypto? We FTX? Steph and Tom are in? Oh, I'm in, bro.
It's crazy how that ad is probably really how this played out in real life. Like, as long as those big name players, brands are in, they're just in. And once again, this whole FTX scam kind of exposes the psychology of big brands, whether it's a celebrity or big institutions like the NBA, the MLB. It exposes the psychology between all those institutions. Like the MLB sort of kind of looking up towards the NBA, and same thing with Tom Brady among the celebrities. Well, I should say the sports celebrities. Tom Brady being a big brand, Stephen Curry's like, hey, if it's good enough for Tom, it's good enough for me. Same thing for David Ortiz and all the other celebrities. This whole situation in real time gives us a scenario of how the psychology between everyone is kind of playing out. And it's crazy. Like, nobody's checking shit. Nobody's fact checking and not even coming to the assumption that, hey, a big name brand can get scammed. So I don't have to open up myself to the same scam.
Naomi Osaka.
Yep.
I'm Naomi Osaka, and I'm proud to partner with FTX.
Otani from the Angels.
What about the great Crypto Tani?
Maybe.
That's why he trades on FTX, the platform that does it all.
There's no due diligence. And in this case, there was no due diligence done even by the venture capitalists who invested in the company. So it was a little hard to blame the athletes for not doing it too. It's sort of like, oh, everybody's all in on this. What could be wrong with it? But what it says is, what you're getting when you buy an athlete is you're a kind of blind faith. The deal the athletes thought they were doing was, well, I'm famous and they're buying a little bit of my fame and there's no cost to me. And nobody's really going to do anything because I said do it. What Sam Bankman-Fried showed is, yes, people will actually do things because you said to do it.
Yeah. Once again, the psychology of sports is getting exposed right here. And these guys are major figures. It shows you the power that they really have on the subconscious of the everyday average person, even the individual average person that may work in an investment firm that invested in Sam Bankman's FTX scam, or an individual that worked in the local government down in Miami that approved the arena's name. Like, these guys' likeness and image is worth way more than money. The influential side it can't be measured.
I want to get to who the audience was for these ads. So just to me, I'm thinking about like bros, dudes who love sports, right? And I imagine that would be an audience, of course, that would overlap with the crypto customer demo.
I mean, yes, but it's pretty inefficient because you're advertising to a lot of people who may not already have any desire to trade crypto. So you sort of have to convince them. It's like a two-step thing. Like, you want to trade crypto, and then you should do it with us. So right. Like, your conversion rate on that is going to be pretty low. And in fact, it was. Sam told me, like, they weren't signing up a lot of customers from these ads. And because that's, like, if you remember the Super Bowl ad with Larry David.
Like I was saying, it's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Or the series of Tom Brady ads. The message was like, all regular people, basically, if you don't go trade crypto right now, you're missing out and you're a loser.
Yes.
And like the successful people, like Tom Brady are doing it.
Yes, the winningest, the champions that he signed up, they're all doing it. And by the way, it also seems like the undercurrent also in those ads is, and we're the good guys.
Yes. And this is where even in the moment, I had developed like my own theory of why he was doing this. I mean, he's in the Bahamas, right? Like this whole thing is like questionably legal at best. Like he's not, the reason he's in the Bahamas is because he would definitely get sued by the Securities and Exchange Commission if he was in the US. And the biggest risk to his business would be that the government would basically say, you know what, we've thought about this a little more. Even though you're on that island, this is actually all super illegal and we're gonna arrest you. Like setting aside any potential fraud, they might just be like, you're running this crazy exchange. The people in the US are getting onto it somehow. And like, this has gotta stop. And if that happened, that could be like the end for him. So anything that would lower the odds of that happening would be valuable. And so he was doing he gave away almost $100 million to people in Congress.
Right.
So that helps maybe.
Sure. You're lobbying the lawmakers, paying them.
But
it's a little deeper than that. Once again, the sports psychology comes into play because some of those lawmakers, they were infatuated with guys like Brady. They were asking about if they could meet Tom Brady at some point.
I think it also helps to have Tom Brady on your side.
Sam said when I go to Capitol Hill and I go meet with senators, the first thing they want to talk about is Tom Brady. So the senators were feeling that warm glow towards Sam because of this perceived relationship with Brady.
And Zeke, now that I hear it, there is this theory that this entire time Sam Bankman-Fried was hiring influencers, but with a specific target as to who he wanted to influence, the people who might existentially threaten him the most.
Yes. And I mean, he had just raised venture capital at like a $32 billion valuation. And they were hoping that maybe next time they go back to the venture capitalists, they could get $100 billion. And like, could it potentially help if one of these venture capitalists went out to dinner with Sam and Tom Brady? Like, yes, that might help. And so like, if that gives you like he loved odds. He thought of everything in terms of odds.
Yeah.
So like, maybe he said in his mind, having Tom Brady available for dinner improves my chances of getting $100 billion by like 1%. You know, I actually would pay Tom Brady $500 million. Like it's a bargain at $55 million.
It was actually brilliant. It actually worked. It was exactly the way to go about it. And whatever dollars he forked over, he got much more in return in terms of just social credibility. If he had actually run this place the way it should have been run, he might have become the world's first $1 trillion company. It was growing unbelievably fast. The name recognition went from 0 to like everybody's heard of this place in about 2 seconds. And it felt okay because all these people who you admire and these institutions you admire said it's okay.
So now you begin to see why this was pretty much not covered throughout the media. It's very embarrassing that these guys fell for the finesse by a guy that's wearing Moses type sandals, man. Like this is unbelievable. Sam Bankman went to a Heat game where he was so underdressed. They couldn't even put him on TV. They tricked him into wearing another shirt, like a Miami Heat shirt, just to cover up a toothpaste stain. Like this guy was selling you on the, hey, I'm the everyday guy. Look, even my shirt has little food stains or toothpaste stains. This was all part of his act. The unironed clothes. Everybody fell for it. And at the end of the day, the money was just spent on a couple of houses. It was spent lobbying, and it was spent on advertisements to pretty much help influence and inflate the evaluation of a Ponzi scheme. But you fellas definitely check out the mailbag below. Leave me any questions. I'll feature as a segment on the show. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.